Well, yes, Tim Walz has a lot to answer for the actions of the Minneapolis shooter and the shootings that most likely will happen in the future if this issue is not addressed. And like yesterday, yeah, like as the quarterly says, the Minneapolis shooter was trans. Apparently, he would never have known. We would never have known that if he didn't tell him himself. I guarantee it. Yeah, no, we don't know what are his motives. And we do know how Tim Walz has been pushing that insanity for so long. These images of Minneapolis leadership are circulating. I've combined them for your convenience. Governor of Minnesota have become friends with school shooters. You remember that from Tim Walz, and you remember when he was saying that, well, they need to push back against Trump.
I'm not going to say that, and I don't think any of us can. I'm getting called out on this because I called Donald Trump a wannabe dictator. It's because he is. It's because he is. Oh. The governor's being mean, and the governor's speaking out on that. Well, maybe it's time for us to be a little meaner. Maybe it's time for us to be a little more fierce. Because we have to ferociously push back on this.
We have to ferociously push back on this. That sounds like, well, that sounds appropriate for this, let's say, these demons. That the only way they can speak is through violence, and not only gun violence I'm talking about. I'm talking about the violence that they have used to hijack and destroy the minds of countless teenagers and children. If it was for them, every single child in the United States will be conditioned by some kind of gender nonsense. That is their plan, and that's why they have failed. And we are witnessing, like, the end of this, and the end is not going to be pretty. That's the problem. That is the issue. And they are 100% responsible of this.
And again, I'll speak to my teacher colleagues in here. The thing that bothers a teacher more than anything is to watch a bully, to watch this bully, and to stop it. And when it's a child, you talk to them. And you tell them why bullying's wrong. But when it's adult like Donald Trump, you bully the shit out of him back. You push.
Yeah, I guess that's the right approach in terms of Tim Walz. In Tim Walz's terms, but I don't think that he's got the physicality. That is all talk, no action. It's that simple. He's just pushing other people to do heinous things. That's what he has been doing all this time. Also, Brent shares this. 2 weeks after a transgender shot Christian school in Tennessee in 2023, the head of Minnesota's Catholic schools begged Tim Walz for help. Our schools are under attack, he wrote. Walz did nothing, but that month Walz signed a bill making Minnesota a trans refuge. Yeah, it's like make this like anybody with this mental illness can come to Minnesota and feel at home. I guess that, well, if Tim Walz is the head of the things, then you can imagine how it could end. Let's be perfectly clear, says Bad Hombre. In 2023, Tim Walz signed a law written by his close advisor and transsexual activist Lee Finke, making Minnesota a trans refuge. In Minnesota, parents are stripped of their rights. Courts assume custody if you refuse to transition your child. A parent can kidnap a child, move to Minnesota, and transition their child, completely overriding the objections of the other parents. Doctors can travel to Minnesota from other states and castrate, mutilate, and drug kids fully shielded by this law. Today, we are witnessing the results of this policy. This will continue to happen as long as this law is on the books. Blood is on the hands of Tim Walz. Again, this is completely unacceptable. And just a couple of days ago, this was a couple of days ago, at the DNC, he was bragging that Minnesota is a safe haven for trans people. He said that himself.
Minnesota ranks the highest per capita for being a safe haven for transgender individuals in Minnesota. And can I just say, We can talk about economic growth and feeding children and growing the economy and creating jobs simultaneously with talking about everybody's human rights matters, and we shouldn't be demonizing that. You can do both.
That's the problem, is that so many people think like this, and Tim Walz is just confirming their worldview. Yes, it has been planted a long time ago. This has been planted even before Tim Walz was governor. Has been for a long time. But they are just adding fuel to the fire over and over again, because that is one of the few policies that stand out, not because if it's useful, because if it's so insane. That's the only way Democrats have of standing out. And I said that on a video yesterday on my Body Language Guy channel. This is a monster. The Democrats have created a monster that they can no longer control. They don't know. That monster is going to eat them alive. That monster, that trans and gender identity monster, is going to eat them for years. The issue is that all the country is suffering because of this. So how can we fix this? I really have no idea, because the more pushback we try to speak some common sense into those people, the more entrenched they are in their beliefs, because this is a literal ideology. These are beliefs that they have. Hear from one of Tim Walz's most trusted advisors, who would likely be asked to serve in a Harris-Walz administration. This was in August 2024. When I was pushing for the trans refuge bill, he was right there with me. And yeah, this is odd to watch, at least.
You have said that Governor Walz has shown up for your community. You are the first out transgender legislator in Minnesota history. What did you mean by that? Expand on it a little bit.
Yes, of course. When we elected 11 new LGBTQ members.
Okay, I would like to have that voice, the fullness of that voice. It's just insane.
To the House 2 years ago, and created the Queer Caucus, and I started pushing the importance of the trans refuge bill that I carried. He was always right there. He understood that this is a way for us to help community members, to help people who are different.
No, this is just insane. And you remember the mayor of Minneapolis, that guy who just cried on the casket of George Floyd? It was really pathetic. It was really pathetic. But he made an appearance. We need to talk about this as well. Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to vilify our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common command. Yeah, he said that.
And I have heard about a whole lot of hate that's being directed at our trans community.
Yeah, this is his statement after the Minneapolis church shooting yesterday. He is more worried about the trans community than the kids that are at risk, the kids that were in that shooting, and of course, the kids who lost their lives because of this monster. This monster that was enabled by his parents, both of them, his father and his mother, and all of them infected by this ideology that should be sanitized in some way, like just eradicated from their minds, liberated in some way, but I don't know how. I certainly don't know how can that happen.
Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity. We should not be operating out of a place of hate for anyone. We should be operating from a place of love for our kids.
All right.
Kids died today. This needs to be about them. This needs to be wrapping our arms around these families with every bit of love that we can possibly show.
What could help? Make or don't make this more dangerous by enabling mental illnesses. It's that simple. This is so hypocritical. So hypocritical.
And I know that our Minneapolis family and well beyond is prepared to do exactly that. And so my message to everyone out there is, again, these families are experiencing some acute pain right now. But don't just think of these as somebody else's kids. Think of your own. Let's make sure that we're acting now to not just say it's never happening again, but ensure it doesn't.
Yeah, but it's I don't know how you're going to control that this doesn't happen again, especially how you push all this. Disgusting. Democrat Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar calls into MSNBC, turns the horrific mass shooting at a Minneapolis church today to the lives of children into a political commercial against Republicans. She said, and I quote, "All the work we have done to ban these automatic rifles and do something when it comes to background checks and everything, we keep getting thwarted. We were able to pass a limited measure, but not enough to stop something like this. It makes you think about that." Yeah, I also said that. This is not about the guns. This is not about the guns, because you will end up like the UK. Oh, you know what we have to do? We need to remove the tips of the knives. We need to remove the tips of the knife. If we remove the tips of the knives, then there will be no more stabbings. Yeah, that is the rationale. No, you need to address the insanity in the first place. But I would like to know what you think about this in the comments. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Power Pundit. Much love and bliss.